Ceasefire!
Welcome to Old Rifle 1898, where we share our passion for rifles, their history, and the joy of shooting them. Welcome back if you have been here in this channel before, and if you're new, please subscribe because you're gonna like what you see. Now, today it's gonna be a bit different in the video because we're not going to speak strictly about the history and the guns. We're getting into the fantasy universe of Shadow and Bone series. We're gonna present the rifles used during the series. Now, the Netflix series is a combination of the Rusia series of books, the trilogy, and what is called also another series of books is the Six Crows. Now, in the series, in the TV series, they take characters from this second series, the Six Crows, and they put it in the Grisha trilogy story, and now it's packed full of different side stories, and it's very fast-paced in terms of action and storytelling. The Ravka kingdom is based on the Tsarist Russia of the late 19th century. We're talking about 1800s, 1890s, actually the last decade of the 19th century. And how do we know this? Well, because obviously the uniforms, the hats, the names of the characters, and the cities of the Ravka kingdom. Now the date is shown because of the firearms used. The Ravka First Army, which is a regular army, uses this rifle. This is the three-line model of 1891 rifle. It's also known as the Mosin rifle or the Mosin-Nagant rifle. This rifle was developed during the Tsarist Russia, and as its name implies, it was first issued in 1891. Now, this was common rifle in terms of features for the era. We have a stock, we have a 5-round magazine, which you can load it from the top. Well, actually, these first versions of the rifle, you had to manually insert one by one of the rounds, but at least you had 5 in the magazine. It has a what we call a straight bolt, a handle, and you shoot one, and then you can shoot the other, and then you are ready for the next round, and so on. So this is called a repeating rifle. Make a note about this, because a repeating rifle is one that you can shoot continuously, at least until you empty your magazine. Previous rifles were called the one-shot rifles. Now this rifle has a sight that is caliber up to 2,000 meters, and that's overly optimistic. You won't be able to basically shoot anything accurately at those ranges, but it gives you an idea how far you can go with that. 2,000 meters, think about it, one football field, it's 100 meters, or about 100 meters. So you line up 20 of those, and then you can have an idea of what we're talking about. It has a front side that it's covered, and actually the caliber, it's 0.3 inches. That's why it's called a 3 line. And it was very common for the era, and we still use 0.3 caliber rifle calibers today. You might have heard about AK-47s, and also NATO uses the same 7.62 NATO round. That's also 0.3 inches of diameter for the round. So these were produced like in the millions. Actually, about 37 million were produced, and you can find this rifle for about $250 to up to $300 right now in the United States. Maybe, yeah, about that. So they were mass produced, and they are still being used as a reserve rifle. Last time I saw it, it was on the Venezuelan militias. They have this rifle as theirs. So it's kind of a crude rifle for what it is, but it's reliable, it shoots accurately, and it does the job that it's supposed to do. Now, the other rifle that you see in the series is not clearly which one is it, but we can presume it's a Winchester. Repeating rifle again, this is an 1874 version. You have this, where this is the magazine. The rounds are put one after the other in this tube. You can see the barrel and the magazine, tube magazine. Well, that's how it's called. And you can see throughout the series that many of the soldiers are using this rifle. We see using both versions of the rifle, this Winchester and the Mosin. Now, this is a kind of different in the way we load it. We put it in the tube. We place the cartridge in the tube, and we put one after the other. And when we want to chamber the round or put it around, we pull the lever. That's why it's called lever action, and then we push it, and now we have a round in the chamber. These rifles were used tremendously in the west of the U.S., and they were produced from the actual 1870s, and there's another version of in the 1894. But it's like the rifle of the Wild West. You're gonna see this all over. But in the military versions, we're kind of not used too much because they were costly to produce, and you don't like that lever action type when you're against terrain, your position against the ground. It's kind of awkward to operate the lever action. They were the cost was higher than the repeating the other bolt action rifles, and they have many issues when you get those dirty. It's not as simple to clean and to maintain as the bolt action rifle. So there you have, these are the two most used rifles throughout the series. And you can find tons and tons of videos about the Mosin-Nagant and the Winchester, because they are so popular. Now, the Russians actually did use Winchester rifles, but it was a modified version of the 1895, where you didn't have this tubular magazine. It was instead, it had a magazine just like the rifle. Okay, so it was like taking this gun and putting this kind of magazine into here. Okay, I'm gonna show you a picture. Now, the other thing that it's presented in the series are revolvers. The revolver that Jesper uses, it's it's not clear which one is that, but it's either a Colt or it could be Remington, about 1870, 1890s. And that revolver again goes into the same period that we're looking at in terms of firearms history. It's very important that there's only one scene where a machine gun is presented in the series. That tells us that either there are two possible candidates for that machine gun, because it's not clear which one. It's very dark and brief the way they presented it. There were two main machine guns on that era. First was the Maxim machine gun, and the other was the Hotchkiss machine gun. The Maxim is very particular because it has a big bottle full of water surrounding the actual fighting battle, and that it's a cooling jacket actually, and you can see that it is very distinguishable from any other type of machine gun. While the Hotchkiss, it's air cooled and it's more of it looks like more like the one presented on the series. I don't know if the directors was that cautious on the historicity, because we're in a real fantasy universe or world, so he doesn't have to abide by those restraints. Now, if we're talking about the machine gun, then there's a very important thing to think here. When on one of the scenes they're talking about the importance of the Second Army, and they are talking about how many casualties of Second Army they had, these people with these special powers, versus when the revolver arrived, and then you had the casualties of the Second Army just rose, and then the repeating rifle came and the casualty even climbed more. So we see that these special powers are their effectiveness as a combat tool are dwindling as the technologies of firearms are developing. In the beginning they show you arrows and bows and arrows, and then there's a gap here or there that we can think about muzzle loaders and then single shot firearms, single shot rifles, but then they're talking about the multiple shot revolvers, and finally they're talking about the multiple shot repeating rifles. The issue here is that we see the machine gun. What will that mean for the survival of the Grisha? I could speculate that this will be the final demise of the Grisha if these firearms, these machine guns, were even develop a little bit more in what we have now, or back then, just a few years later, in the 1914, 18, let's say 20 years later, here in our universe, the machine pistol 18 was developed. So we have a light machine gun that could be used as a means of attack against the Grisha, and their magical weapons and powers will be kind of not useless, but not any more effective against more modern firearms. The importance of the Grisha will be diminished as the firearms in this particular world keeps developing. I don't know if that will be the case in the next season or whatever, but it's something that they come and present, and we have to understand that if the story of the firearm development continue in the story, we now know that the Grisha will have only about 20 years of effectiveness of fighting with their powers, because in 1918 we have the development of the small machine gun, and that will be totally effective against any Krishna power presented in the cities. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope that you enjoyed the video. There's, as I said, a lot of more videos if you want to get into the Mosin-Nagant, the Winchester, or the cold revolvers of the area. Feel free to make comments, and please subscribe if you haven't done so yet. See you soon.